Hey everyone, today we're in Perkins, Oklahoma at the Perkins Cemetery, and this is one that we have visited before. We saw the grave of Pistol Pete, a lawman slash school mascot that is famous here in Oklahoma, but he's also been the mascot of other universities in other states, as well as a high school in Florida and then a college on the other side of the globe over in Asia. So he's an interesting one. I'll have his link above. But we're here to visit a lawman, a U.S. Deputy Marshal that was killed in the Battle of Ingalls in Ingalls, Oklahoma, which was a battle that took place with the Doolin gang. I figured we would explain a little bit more of what happened. So this cemetery does go a ways back. It's kind of a long, narrow cemetery. Quite a few graves, but it is an interesting one to walk through. And since we're near Stillwater, Oklahoma, you're going to see a lot of things referencing Oklahoma State University. But this is a really easy one to find right at the entrance of the cemetery here. You can see that rock wall. Immediately to your right, you'll notice an Albrecht monument. And there's kind of this dead tree right here. And then there's a house right over there, but we're looking for this small one right here. This was the very first officer that was shot. And this is Richard Speed. He went by Dick Speed. Born December 11th, 1867 and died September 1st, 1893. And like I said, there were 3 officers that were shot that day, and he was the very first one. And he is buried here in the Perkins Cemetery. Richard Dick Speed became a constable in Chautauqua County, Kansas, right on the northern border of Indian Territory, and he held that position for 4 years. He then became a U.S. Deputy Marshal in Oklahoma Territory and was one of 3 officers fatally wounded during the Battle of Ingalls with the Doolin gang on September 1st, 1893. Members of the Doolin gang were wanted for the murder of Marshal Charles Connolly of the Coffeyville, Kansas Police Department. In late August of 1893, the U.S. Marshals had received word that the outlaws were hiding out in Ingalls, which was a small town 10 miles east of Stillwater in Payne County, Oklahoma Territory. On Friday, September 1st, 1893, 2 covered wagons entered Ingalls, and they were concealing 13 U.S. Deputy Marshals on the inside. Dick Speed was one of these, and when he saw George Bitter Creek Newcomb leading his horse down the street, the battle began. Speed raised his rifle to shoot him, and just as he did, Bitter Creek did the same. Speed's shot fired just before Bitter Creek's did, and it hit his magazine, sending pieces of the shattered Winchester into his leg. Bitter Creek's shot went wild, and he was unable to fire another shot because his rifle was disabled. At the same time, Roy Dotery, or Arkansas Tom as he was known, heard the commotion and looked out the window of the hotel on the 2nd floor. When he saw Deputy Speed taking aim at Bitter Creek, he quickly shot Speed, hitting him first in the shoulder and then killing him instantly with the second shot. This intense firefight became known as the Battle of Ingalls. So we are now in the Fairlawn Cemetery, which is in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I wanted to show you another lawman that was involved in the shootout of Ingalls, Oklahoma. And he is really easy to find. Let me show you. Just to give you a little reference of where we're at, you can see those grain elevators there in the campus of OSU off in the distance. But as you come through town, you'll come to this cemetery, Fairlawn Cemetery, as I stated. Just come in that entrance right here, and he is straight back in section 7. This is the grave of Thomas Jefferson Houston, or Tom as he was known. He was the 2nd deputy marshal that was injured that day in that infamous shootout of Ingalls, Oklahoma. He got shot twice and died the next day of his injuries. You can see here, he is an Oddfellow guy. That's what those 3 chains are there. And like I said, the next day, September 2nd, 1893, Thomas J. Houston is what it says. Age 37 years, and look at there, we got a caterpillar crawling on his age right there. 37 years, 11 months, 17 days is what it says. So there's life on that marker. Now he is buried here next to his first wife, right here, Amelia S., wife of T.J. Houston. She died on December 15th, 1890 at the age of 30 years, 7 months, 17 days. What's interesting about that, she died December 15th, but he turns around and gets married again to another lady. Oh, I can't remember. I think her first name is Arizona, and she has the name Payne. We're in Payne County, so she might be related to David Payne, the guy that kind of is a boomer for Oklahoma. Somehow she's probably related. They kind of push for this territory to open up. And she goes on and gets married several other times. I don't know if she outlives her husbands or what, or they just don't work out. But yeah, he's buried here next to his first wife. She dies and he immediately gets married to someone else. And then, of course, dies from the infamous shootout of the Doolin gang. 1893, that was definitely a rough shootout there. After shooting Deputy Speed, Arkansas Tom then turned his sights on Deputy Thomas Houston and shot him twice. The first time was in the left side, and then the other one was in the bowels. He was still living when the battle was over, but he died the next day on September 2nd, 1893 as a result of his wounds. Tom left behind a second wife named Arizona C. Payne and 3 daughters and 1 son from his first marriage. Ethel, age 12, Inez, age 8, and twins Maud and Claude, age 7. A third deputy was also shot, and his name was Lafayette Shadley, and he went by the nickname Leif. In 1892, while serving as Deputy U.S. Marshal out of the federal court in Guthrie, Leif had been in a gunfight with Doolin gang member Dynamite Dick Clifton in Osage Nation. Leif wounded Dynamite Dick in the neck, but he was still able to escape. The next time they met, the tables were certainly turned. After deputies Dick Speed and Tom Houston were shot in Ingalls, the gang then took aim at another deputy. Lafayette Shadley was shot 3 times as he was trying to climb a fence by either Arkansas Tom or Bill Dalton, or possibly even both. Arkansas Tom was arrested that day, but the rest of the gang escaped. Leif survived the battle but died from his wounds a couple days later on September 3rd. He was buried in the Mount Hope Cemetery located in Independence, Missouri. He left behind his wife Melinda and 3 kids, Mary, age 27, William, age 20, and Charles, age 13. One other interesting monument just a little ways down from Marshal Houston here is this one right here. And it's remembering the basketball team plane crash that happened on January 27th, 2001, as you can see down at the bottom. And it just says OSU there. There's a cowboy holding the OSU flag, and he's on top of Bullet, which is the name of the horse here for Oklahoma State University. And it says, "We will remember." And on this day, there was a plane crash east of Denver, I don't know, 40, 50 miles, something like that. And it killed 2 basketball team members from what I can remember, and then about 6 of the coaching staff and broadcasters for OSU. There was a guy that broadcasted many of the games on radio, Bill Tegans. And I remember listening to him quite a bit as far as on the sports radio. He was also a newscaster in Oklahoma City, and he was one of the ones that was killed. So this was a major event here in Stillwater and also the state. So pretty interesting to see that here. I had no idea that was here in the cemetery. Right down this main entrance into the cemetery. So that's going to do it for our little cemetery visits here in Oklahoma. I hope you learned a little bit more about the Doolin gang and some of the officers that they took the lives of. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.